Well, hi, friends. I'm Pastor Dave, and I'm here with another story for you. I'm in a different place today because we had something special going on at church, and so I just decided to stay here for our story today. Maybe you remember a couple days ago, we talked about how if you had a book, you can go anywhere. The importance of imagination. I thought about that, and then that made me think of a story that's even older than me that tells us about a boy who had an amazing adventure, but he only had one toy. Maybe you could think about what it would be like to be with one toy. But this book that's older than me is called Harold and the Purple Crayon. And it's written by someone whose name is Crockett Johnson. And it's a lot of fun, and I think that you're going to like it. Let's take a look at Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. There wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. And he needed something to walk on. He made a long, straight path so he wouldn't get lost. And he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long, straight path. So he left the path for a shortcut across the field, and the moon went with him. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the forest, though, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. He really is using his crayon, isn't he? So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. Ooh, it was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold. He backed away. His hand holding the purple crayon shook. I wonder what will happen. Suddenly he realized what was happening. By then, Harold was over his head in an ocean that he had drawn. He came up thinking fast, and in no time, he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. He quickly set sail, and the moon sailed along with him. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made Harold hungry. So he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. There was nothing but pie, but there were 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best. When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left, and he hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up. And off he went, looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the further he could see, so he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. He was tired, and he felt like he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped that he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped, and there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. Oh no. But luckily he kept his wits and his purple crayon. He made a balloon and he grabbed onto it. And he made a basket under the balloon big enough to stand in. Whew. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. So he made a house with windows and he landed the balloon in the grass in the front yard. None of the windows was his window. He tried to think of where his window ought to be. He made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. But none of the windows was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. He decided to ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way Harold was going, but Harold thanked him anyway. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in bed. And then suddenly Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. And then Harold made his bed. He got in it and he drew up the covers. And the purple crayon dropped on the floor and Harold dropped off to sleep. That's the story of Harold and the Purple Crayon. I hope you like that one. It's one of my favorites. And when you go to bed tonight, maybe you can see the moon from your window, and you can think of Harold and his purple crayon, and maybe you can think of all the other people who can see the moon too. And maybe together we can say a prayer for all the people who see the moon, that we might be able to imagine joy and happiness and love for each other. Hey, I'll be back again tomorrow with a new story. Goodbye now.